this is going to be, let me turn it to your direction. This is going to be inside of the kidney. All of this region is going to be the cortex. All of this region is in the medulla. Whenever you start off for identifying the nephrons, one nephron is going to be a green ball, orange tubules, and then also the purple tubule. So this is all one single nephron. Also another nephron right here. This nephron is called a cortical nephron because it's only located, all of its structures, in the cortex. Cortical referring to the cortex. This nephron, which goes deep into the medulla, that's going to be a juxtamedullary nephron. So two different types, cortical and juxtamedullary. In one single nephron, there's 3 regions that you need to identify. We have the green, which is a renal corpuscle, and then the orange, the proximal convoluted tubule, purple, distal convoluted tubule. But where these purple and orange kind of come together, this big dip is going to be the loop of Henle. So renal corpuscle, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule. From there we go into the collecting system. This is going to be the collecting duct, all of this yellow all the way down to this point, which is the papillary duct. And the papillary duct is then going to connect to a minor calyx. Minor calyx connects to a major calyx, and then that connects to the renal pelvis, to the ureter. If we take one of these renal corpuscles, enlarge it, that's what this model is. They've cut it open so that you can see what's going on the inside. On the outside, the shell, that's going to be Bowman's capsule, and then the space is the capsular space, and then the knot of capillaries, the glomerulus. So together, the glomerulus with the shell on the outside, Bowman's capsule, that makes up a renal corpuscle, which are these green balls. On the surface of the glomerulus, you can see these individual green cells. Those are going to be the podocytes. And then the cracks in between the podocytes, that's the filtration slits. Also, whenever you're looking at the capsular space, you can see that this space, which is where all of the filtrate is going to be pushed out into, that space is continuous with the opening in this first tubule, which is the proximal convoluted tubule, because that's the first place that the filtrate is entering. So, proximal convoluted tubule right here. On the opposite side over here, this is going to be the distal convoluted tubule because this is the last portion that the filtrate is passing through. And you always can tell the distal convoluted tubule because it is always lapping around at the same point that we have the afferent and efferent arteriole connecting and going in to make the glomerulus. So if we look over here, you can see that this portion wrapping around right at this point, so that's going to be the distal convoluted tubule. Not only do you know that it's purple, but it's always going to connect at that same point. Also, in the distal convoluted tubule, you have this line of columnar cells, and those are going to be the macula densis cells, which are regulating what type of chemicals we have inside of the filtrate, because we are exposed to the filtrate passing through the opening. On the surface of the afferent arteriole, which is this one, these are going to be called granular cells, and the granular cells are regulating blood pressure. How strong and how hard is the blood coming into the glomerulus? If we need to slow it down, we'll open up the capillaries, and then vice versa. We'll either close them off to increase pressure. And then where these cells kind of spill over into this space, this is going to be the extraglomerular mesangial cells. Extra means next to or close to, and glomerular is referring to the glomerulus. So extraglomerular mesangial cells out here. And those are just kind of a communication link between the macula densa cells and the granular cells so that they can regulate what kind of chemicals do we have and also what's our blood pressure.
So those cells are this whole thing?
All of this wrapping around is the granular cell.
Okay.
So if I pointed to like one of these that's right on top of the afferent arteriole, that's going to be a granular cell.
Okay.
But then if I pointed to one out here in this kind of triangular space, that's going to be an extraglomerular mesangial cell.
Okay.
I don't want to confuse her, but the mesangial cells that are actually inside here, do they do the same function?
They do. Yeah, you also have, you can't see it on this model, but on the picture that we had in the presentation, you did have mesangial cells that are in between all of these podocyte cells. And so those are going to also regulate blood pressure inside of the renal corpuscle. You have extraglomerular outside, where you have the glomerulus, and then just plain mesangial cells, which are going to be inside, right in here. Outside, where we have the extraglomerular mesangial cells, granular cells, and the macula densa cells, all three of those together make up what's called the juxtaglomerular apparatus or the JG apparatus, either one. So those are all kind of a way to control what's going on inside of the nephron as a whole. And then if we go back to this model, as far as blood vessels, what you can see here, if you think about a renal pyramid being right down here in the medulla, this would be arching over that broad portion of the renal pyramid, so that's going to be the arcuate artery and arcuate vein, both of these on both sides. Arcuate artery, red. Arcuate vein, blue. If we stick with the arcuate artery, those are going to branch off into a smaller artery, which is the cortical radiate artery. And then the cortical radiate artery connects to the afferent arteriole. And that afferent arteriole is going to go inside. If we could cut open the renal corpuscle, that's where we would find the glomerulus. And then exiting through the efferent arteriole. Then right in here, this would be all of those paratubular capillaries that wrap around all the tubules. And then we go into our veins. This is going to be the cortical radiate vein. And then back to the arcuate vein. And that's it.
Okay, so the blood actually comes into here, dumps the toxins, and comes back out clean
Right.
in here, and then goes back into the venous system.
Yeah. Both of these